All right, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. So feedback is greatly important. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll have that for you in this episode. All right, so some of the audio platforms that I'm on Spreaker, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Pandora, iHeartRadio, just to name a few. So this episode is going to be about the aspects, and when I was saying about one day at a time, I'm going to talk about the musical aspects. And so in this episode, I'm just going to do this differently. So I'm just going to give my thoughts about music from the 70s and my thoughts about theme show sitcom music from the 70s, and in particularly how that fits into the aspects of the show One Day at a Time. All right, here we go. Okay, so my thoughts about sitcoms, particularly the way that sitcoms were, the music was going on at the time in the 70s. It again was, as I said earlier in podcasts about my thoughts about stuff from the music from the 70s. They were really pushing the aspects of telling a story and revealing that, and the lyrics. And All in the Family was really good aspects of that, and then the Jeffersons and Maude and so forth. So even though All in the Family was accompanied by a piano, you could sit back and picture the aspects of the themes of the show. So the fact that the tempo, everywhere from the tempo of how the piano was played and the notes that were chosen in the song, it, to me, and I'm sure that's what it was, going back to the aspects of old folk songs, particularly when we think about Polish and stuff like that, songs that you would hear in folk music there. And so when we get into the Jeffersons, the aspects of we're going to move on up to the east side, in itself, it's talking about, for the most part, of how we came from nothing. We made a lot of struggles, but we eventually won. And here's this song that's, being prevalent to this situation, are in itself our victory song, and how the aspects of using a gospel assembly accompaniment about it really in itself sings and sends that line along. So, what do I mean by this? So, most of the time, especially with gospel music, you're really speaking from your soul, and you're confessing from your soul how you feel or what you think about something. And most of the time, you're rejoicing your tribulation, y'all, the trials and tribulations that you have overcome. And so the fact that a show like The Jeffersons had a theme song like that, it proved the point of the main storyline of these characters, of the rags to riches. Now, when we get into One Day at a Time here, you get this up, down beat, pop sound of, it's optimistic, but it's also saying, I don't know what is upheld for me. And so that goes along the lines of the main themes in the storyline of One Day at a Time. Because, the mother, she's very optimistic of, oh, it will work out, and I have a brighter future now because I know who I want to be now. I'm not just, I'm going to make my way in the world now. I'm not just tied down anymore. And then you get the upbeat do 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 do, But at the same time, when you tap into the lyrics, and then you tap into the message of saying one day at a time, that's something that's not all that reassuring. Because it's saying that, I know what I want to do, but I'm still figuring it out, and I'm just going to take it one day at a time. And hopefully it just, me having that mentality, I'll not make everything crash and burn so badly. And so, yeah, and that's what I find quite interesting about the aspects of the different ranges of things that were coming out in the 70s. And, you got, and I'll get back to disco. You got disco, my thoughts about disco. You got rock, you got pop, you got soul. You got so many things coming out all at once here. And so, disco. Now, I've heard where, particularly, some years ago, they were making the argument, oh, well, disco was one of those things that it fell to the wayside is because mainstream, the music industry or what have you, or mainstream culture or what have you, did not want African American voices prevalent and powerful, which that was not the case. And see, that's one of those things that when you have bad characters at play and culture, a lot of things get warped and misinterpreted that it shouldn't. And, people can't, it strips away from people having, honest discussions about certain topics. And then this, in general, talking about disco, it was centered around the aspects of hedonist culture. And what I mean by sex, drugs, rock and roll, and now rock and roll has that mentality, but it's not all about that. For the most part, disco was centered around drugs, particularly you gotta, take some sort of drug in order to get to dance all night long to the music and everything. And the hedonism with drugs and sex and disco was very associated with that. And that's something to think about here when we get into the prevalent nature of music that was coming out from the 70s. Now, when you can counteract that by talking about, we're getting to soul and then, finding a song with R&B. Now, this music, which is still going on to this time, it's withstand the test of time because it was a mixture of different aspects of life and making commentary about different aspects of life. It wasn't centered around good times and screwing and doing all kinds of crazy crap. It was, just speaking from the heart of the matter of the situation of what you notice. And so, that needs to be prevalent in the aspects of talking about music and then talking about minorities and talking about their place in music. Because, if we open up the discussion, well, okay, yeah, you say this, but what about the aspects of soul and the aspects of funk? And see, because there was some, even in the aspects of funk, that fell to the wayside because, again, we're wrapping around the notation of it's just being about debauchery. It's not really being about, more that there's not an upper level sort of mentality about the aspects of these songs here, or the culture that it brings with the genre of song. And so, I think Al Green is a really good example of these things here. So, Al Green, with his songs and his lyrical accompaniment, he was a balladeer in his own right. But, he started out singing soulful music. Now, people really connected to what he was talking about. Him and Teddy Pendergrass. Oh my gosh, I can't. No, I don't know why he is. He's faltering my mind, but he has a very deep baritone voice. Y'all know who Barry White, yeah. Okay? And so, these people, for most of the time, Al Green was talking about love and romance and breaking down and trying to figure out everything. And so, when that controversy happened about him getting hit in the face by with hot water, that was really, it's one of those very interesting things. It was a call to action for him to change his life. And so when he moved on from the transitions of music that was going on, from transitioning from the 70s to the 80s, he became a gospel singer. And so that in his right helped him to, renew his aspects about storytelling and how he sees the world now through the eyes of a saved person, a Christian person. And it's very prevalent in how that took a new light in his career. And so Billy Joel, I'm going to end by talking about the aspects of Billy Joel and his impact in the 70s and so forth. And it's quite interesting because Billy Joel did, help. He was very prevalent in the entertainment industry, other than being this, and words that can't express. He's just very impactful musician and storyteller. He, he had his hand in other aspects by writing songs for a show like Bosom Buddies, and then being in movies and so forth. So a lot of his songs, Billy Joel, you really get the impact and the the prevalence of where he stands and what he's talking about in his commentary about the society at large, and especially when he says, "Sing us a song, you're the piano man." He's making commentary about the aspects of how, particularly at that time, how musicians play their part in the aspects of entertaining other people's lives. And so, particularly when we get in the aspects of bars and we get in the aspects of, things like that, people, for the most part, are coming to escape, to, wind down from something or either wind down from something. And so you see the lens through Billy Joel being on both sides, understanding, the people who want to hear the song, and then the musician who's making these songs. And so how they both blend themselves together to give you this incredible story of it's aggravating and mind-numbing, churning out these songs night after night after night, and people wanting this, people looking for you to, be the highlight of their lives. But at the same time, the musician understands their place and point of doing these things. The 70s really made a home in itself, and to give songwriters the aspects to really talk about and things as honestly as they can and give their comments through song. Because I can't stress this enough. It's just sometimes music can really express far better than just simply a simple conversation or, speaking things out through conversations here. And I think that, a show like One Day at a Time was really placed in the right arena to be able to hone in and emphasize the subject matter here of the time of what this show was making commentary about. And so in the 70s too, in itself, music was very important to people's lives. It was the time where people would buy vinyls, 8-tracks, so forth. There was still music stores there that was very prevalent to people's lives, and DJs, disc jockeys, giving their input about different artists and plugging or not plugging different artists. And then, live concerts. People go to live concerts now, but then, oh my goodness, I'm only speaking, from my aspects and my love for history. I don't know, because I wasn't around, that's before my time. The 70s is before my time. But y'all who have experienced that, y'all understand, y'all know that, particularly when we get into the aspects of rock and roll bands, it was really an event. When we get Leonard Skinner, we get Rush, we get that Little River band, we get so many other artists. AC/DC, they really use their music and use their arena stage, the live aspect of hearing and their sound and understanding their sound to really advocate what they're about. And you get that experience. It was just like a all access pass experience that could be very cathartic or so forth for the musical enthusiast, as you know, for the most part. And I think that that's what's very unique to the aspects of the 1970s in music, and the aspects of hearing sitcom music at that time. So I'd like to know what you all think. Feel free to reach out to me. This reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.